Creepypastas. First coined in 2007, it is a term that refers to any horror content based off of the internet. So technically, anything horror related that came from the internet is considered a creepypasta. Backrooms, ARGs, web series, whatever. But back in the early 2000s and early 2010s, these creepypastas were a lot less cinematic and theatrical and were more based around the form of literature. And it being the early 2000s, 2010s internet, most of the horror was not very good. That didn't stop them from becoming popular nevertheless. And one of the most famous works to come from creepypastas is Jeff the Killer. Now, before I talk about Jeff the Killer and give you a brief word of warning, this is not a very well made story, which isn't a surprise from the preamble I gave earlier, but I should warn you anyways for the sake of your own sanity. Now, the origin story of Jeff the Killer is incredibly edgy and poorly written, but hey, they connected to an audience, and a surprisingly large audience, and when I was a kid when I first heard about these stories, they did legitimately creep me out, because I was a big baby and anything could scare me back then. But these type of stories are also not scary enough to actually scar me for life, which meant I could actually listen to these stories as a kid, which should tell you the stories weren't very scary. And yes, I said listen, because thanks to Mr. Creepypasta and CreepyPasta and their lot, I got introduced to the genre of audio drama horror. So blame them for what I'm about to subject you to. Anyways, let's talk about the rich lore of Jeff the Killer. Also, heads up, this is a horror-based story, so obviously there's going to be a lot of blood and gore and darker themes to it, even though it's not really well written they exist, so be warned. Now, originally I was going to talk about a 2008 video that inspired everything, but the video is really bad, somehow even worse than the story that was created, and also the creator of the video is also just as bad. So, mainly I'm going to focus on Jeff the Killer origin story. If the horror video was so bad, then how did it even get popular in the first place to become a story in 2011? Well, you see, one good thing that came from that video was a genuinely creepy and disturbing looking image, or set of images, which are these. There's a whole thing where no one actually knows where these pictures originally came from. There's several videos going on to deep dives and trying to discover where the origin of Jeff the Killer face comes from. But we're not going to Lost Media Dives, we're talking about the really bad Jeff the Killer story. Also, side note, my eyes hurt from writing this video because I had to switch from my docs to this creepypasta, which is set on a creepypasta wiki, and a creepypasta wiki is in all black, and my docs is in all white. So switching from screen to screen really hurt my eyes. Aside from the story itself, this is the second worst form of torture I had to experience while creating this video. Anyways, let's talk about the Jeff the Killer story. Made in 2011 and uploaded to DeviantArt by a user named GameFuelTV. Here the story begins, where we are put in the point of view of a local newspaper article, how people were being killed. The formatting of this entire story is really bad, but the newspaper seems to have a boy talking about his experiences of almost getting killed. He explains that he woke up in the middle of the night and saw that someone with a weird red smile broke into his room. The weird man said go to sleep, that's his catchphrase by the way, and then the two had a fight. Then his dad came, and Jeff threw a knife at his dad, stabbed his dad in the shoulder, and then the police came after being alerted by the neighbors. And if you stop and think about it, it does sound like all this happened within 30 seconds of each other, so how did the police get alerted and arrive there so quickly? I don't know. Then it badly transitions to Jeff as a normal person who moved into a new place with his family. It's a fancy neighborhood. Fancy was in quotes, I don't know why. As they are moving in, they meet neighbors who invite them to their son's Billy's birthday party that was coming up soon. His parents say yes while Jeff is edgy and doesn't want to go into a dumb kid's party. Then has a strange urge. Next day, he had urge again during breakfast. Then he and his younger brother Liu, I'm gonna call him Lou because it sounds more likely, go and wait for the school bus to go to school. Then while waiting, 12-year-old comes along and does a sick trick on his skateboard. Also, we find out that Jeff is like 13 and Lou is like younger than him, so he's like 11 or 12, something like that. Anyways, the skateboard boy has a Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans and tells that these boys were fresh meat. Here, the cool kid introduces his two goons, Keith, who had a dopey face, that you would expect a sidekick to have, and Troy, who's fat. And man, does the author hate fat kids apparently. It also feels like the author might be projecting his childhood bully, but maybe that's just me. Anyways, Skater Boy tells Jeff that he's Randy.
Cup of coffee in the big time.
And he also explains that in order to use the bus, they have to pay a toll.
You are nothing but garbage, yeah.
And when Lou tries to fight back against them, they pull out knives. Yeah. Preteen violence, going the girl who owned a city levels of insanity already. Yeah. Anyways, Jeff gets the urge again. Okay, this is sounding really bad because I started writing this as a bit of a joke, but now it just sounds like a really bad puberty development. I need to divert quickly from this now. Anyways, Jeff punched Randy in the face, and then he broke his wrist, and then he chucked him to the floor, because he's so cool. He then stabbed Keith and punched Troy in the stomach, and he threw up because he is fat. Then they ran as the bus came to avoid blame, but Jeff knew that this fight awoke something in him. Nah, that really doesn't sound right. Now he enjoyed inflicting pain on people. Anyways, they walk to school, and then they go back home after school, and he said he had a wonderful day to his parents, but he said it in an ominous fashion. Next day, police come, and the mother is upset because, he stabbed the guy. Jeff tries to defend himself, but the police say that 2 people were stabbed, which, if you remember what I explained earlier in the fight, he only stabbed 1 guy. So, afterwards, maybe they did so to put blame onto Jeff? I don't know. Probably not. I don't think the author remembered how to count. Anyways, Jeff was at a loss to what to do, so he decided to admit his guilt. Police then sentenced him to juvie for a year. That's not how it should work, but okay. Feels like that iCarly sketch of arbitrary sentences after being caught for doing a crime, but fine. But then his brother Liu comes in with a knife.
Let me see what you have! No!
And the cops pull their guns on him. I mean, yeah, pretty ridiculous, but you can't say that similar instances haven't happened in real life. Liu also cut himself up so it looked like he got in a fight, not Jeff. They believe the child and completely ignore what Jeff says, and the mom, while sad, accepts this fate of his children, I guess. And Liu is put in handcuffs and taken away. Then Saturday comes along and the kid's birthday party comes and they go despite the parents losing a son due to juvie. So he prepares by dressing up in a t-shirt and jeans, and his parents are dressed in a full suit and dress for a kid's birthday party. How rich are these people? Fancy was in quotes, wasn't it? Are they serving champagne and caviar over there for a kid's birthday party? Seriously. Jeff has to fancy up, so he upgrades from a regular t-shirt to a button-up shirt and dress pants. But for some reason, he then decides to put a sweater over it, so kinda completely renders his efforts moot, but whatever. Anyways, they go to Billy's place, and all the adults are also weirdly dressed in fancy attire. It doesn't explain why, it doesn't need to, I guess. Anyways, Jeff is too cool to play with kids, but eventually humors them and does so. Then Randy comes back.
My curiosity is killing me just like a cat would be killed. I have the curiosity, yeah.
His wrist is broken, by the way, so I have no idea how he recovered it in like less than a week. They fight.
I hate your guts, and that's what's gonna be left all over the mat after WrestleMania 5.
And Randy's goons pull out guns and hold the entire party hostage. They're all like 12, by the way. Randy now has a knife and he stabs Jeff.
Maybe I am insane. Maybe I am insane. And maybe it's time for you to find out.
But Jeff fights him off, so Troy throws him through a window and onto the patio. Randy is now back on Jeff and he's in full villain mode, goading him to fight and screaming about how he did it. It was him all along. He caused Lou to be in a JDC for a whole year as he smashed a bottle of vodka onto Jeff.
I could take all the candy and pour it on your head right now, but I ain't gonna. I'm gonna pour it over mine.
Jeff then lets the evil side consume him, and he hits Randy with a pile driver.
Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in.
Yes, the wrestling move. Punches him in the heart so hard that he stops Randy's heart.
Apology accepted.
I assume in some type of ancient din map that his evil demon form learned.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness, without doubt, the most savage and terrifying self-defense form known to man.
fire upon him, and then he runs up the stairs and uses the towel rack to fight off the two who are now armed with knives. Jeff insta kills the fat one, and then he tussles with Keith. They then bump into a thing of bleach. I don't know what that means. Pours onto them and burns them. And Keith then is taken down. His dying breath laughs and explains to Jeff how he's covered in bleach and alcohol and lights him on fire. Jeff then recovers in the hospital, wrapped in bandages. Lou is released thanks to Randy's testimony of screaming how he did everything. After he takes the bandages off, it is revealed that his lips are bright red and he had a pale face. Jeff is super happy of his scarred face as the story then breaks the fourth wall slightly and tells us that fighting Randy made him snap and he was now a killer. Anyways, the doctors think he's healthy enough to leave, so he leaves with his family. Jeff also takes his hoodie and black pants as he goes home. Then in the middle of the night, Jeff carves a smile onto his face, because, you know, he's the Joker, baby.
Well, I'm the Joker, baby.
And then proceeds to burn his eyelids off so that he can always see his face. Jeff's mom, unsettled, goes to get his husband and asks for him to grab the gun. Yeah, that's right, you heard right. Her son seems to be mentally unstable, so she asks her husband to pull a gun on their child. Jeff then kills them both. Then Jeff enters Lou's room and kills him too, first uttering "go to sleep" beforehand. And that's it. That's how the story ends. Wasn't that spooky? So, obviously, a very simple and silly story that probably wouldn't shake anyone to their core by just reading it alone. So, you know, the picture does most of the heavy lifting. But still, it had enough influence and popularity that there was many fan sequels of this story, and Jeff the Killer sort of created his own CreepyPasta universe with Jane the Killer and dealings with Slenderman and other characters throughout the 2000s CreepyPasta lore. Then later on, in 2015, someone named K. Banning Killam made a remake of the 2011 story, improving on it greatly. It is easily much better written than an original piece, though while it's more serious and tells a more coherent story, it sadly isn't nearly as stupidly funny as the 2011 version is. But let me briefly talk about it anyways. First off, the preteens are all aged up to around teenage years, so that's nice, makes things more realistic. And like in the original story, they moved into a new place from a different city. But unlike the original story, it explains how they came from New Orleans. This new place is a rather small town. And all the characters in the story talk like normal people, and we go to Jeff and Lou adjust to their new life in this small town. And when Randy and his two goons come and kind of bully them, it comes off a lot more natural. Jeff and Lou left their bikes unlocked, and then without permission, the three of them took them and started playing around with them, while Jeff and Lou tried to get them back. Their interaction preceding the fight is a lot more realistic, as between the two groups, there's a lot of name-calling, insults, and posturing that slowly ramped up more and more until the fight broke out. And when the fight breaks out, it's actually well choreographed, unlike last time where, you know, Jeff breaks wrist, Jeff throws person down, Jeff stabs person, Jeff wins. It details the sequence of events of how the fight plays out. And like the original, Jeff's first breakdown of pure rage occurs as he beats Randy in the fight, but then he and his brother run away before the cops come. The next day, a cop goes to confront them, and it's made clear that Randy and his family have influence inside the small town, and that Randy's lie made it sound like Jeff started a fight, and the cop believed him. And sadly, there's no 1 year of juvie, just a warning from the cop to tell Jeff to stay away from Randy. Jeff's parents also believe the cop, and Jeff and Lou are left to rely on themselves to deal with the bullies. It is also explained that their parents care a lot more about their reputation and jobs than their own children, and blame Jeff and Lou for starting the fight. And Lou is forced to hang out at their aunt's place for the rest of the summer. Also, Randy's dad owns part of the company that Jeff's dad works in, so even though when Lou shows off his injuries, their parents ignore them. It's clear that their parents aren't very great in the story, and the town has some pretty scummy egomaniacs in charge. Then the parents are trying to be friendly with the top brass of the town. His mother forces him to be friendly with Randy. So Jeff has to go to Randy's place and meets Randy. Randy surprisingly seems rather relaxed and apologetic about the whole situation from the other day, and the two have a friendly enough conversation. As both their parents leave their house, Randy takes Jeff over to the woods to reveal him something, and then he reveals that he was actually lying about being nice to him. and he sends his goons on him. Thankfully, due to Jeff's new evil angry powers, he manages to fend them off and even forces them to apologize. Then, as their parents return in a desperate attempt to hide what happened, Randy, armed with a flare gun, which he got earlier, it's not that important, accidentally fires it and it strikes Jeff right in the face. And like in the original story, he gets set on fire and is sent to the hospital, though obviously a bit more realistic. And we're given some more telling info of how his mother really is like, as while he's recovering in bed, he overhears that she's more concerned over his facial appearance from the injury than any permanent damage to his vision or brain or risk of infection. Clearly not a very good mother. He then hears her tell his dad that she wants Jeff to be homeschooled, as if others were to see his disfigured face now, people would ostracize his family. Jeff is now understandably angry at the fact that pure reputation was more important than her son's well-being. It is also revealed that Randy lied that Jeff shot himself in the face with the flare gun. Then he actually meets one decent person, a nurse that takes care of him as he recovers, and when he finally takes off his bandages to see his injury, it's described to be a lot more realistic, with burn marks, missing hair, and scars that resemble a smile, not the wacky short description that was said like in the original, and then goes home the same day. Lou, worried about his brother's well-being, is also back with the family, and is concerned of Jeff's current strange mental state. Though their parents were too busy worrying about their social status and decide to ignore Jeff's mental needs, even ignoring Lou's idea of getting something to eat to celebrate Jeff's healthy recovery. Instead, his mother said they should both just go to sleep. Yeah, enough was enough for Jeff, and later that night, he then murders both his parents, but leaves his brother alone. Because Lou did nothing but be nice and help him, which makes sense, and something that the original story for some reason didn't do. I mean, it didn't do a lot of things, so actually I shouldn't be surprised. Anyways, with that, Jeff flees his family's home, disappears off into the woods. This story is much more competently made, and if you wanted a decent entrance into the world of creepypasta style stories, then read this. It's a nice short story involving a tragic character that slowly turns to the breaking point. He gets his Joker moment.
Well, I'm the Joker, baby.
Obviously, the character Jeff the Killer was popular enough to have a fan remake of his original story, several different fan adaptations, several fan-made sequels, and lots of rereadings and audio readings of his stories involving him, plus various other references and influences regarding him. Also, for fun, if you want, write it in the comments. I will be willing to make a dramatic reading of the 2011 version of the story for fun. Just comment if you wanted that. Also, speaking about remakes and reimaginings of this Jeff the Killer, there's this YouTuber named Pastra who made a 2-hour long remake of Jeff the Killer, going less tragic backstory like the 2015 version and more into a murderous psychopath. So give that a listen to if you want to. Though, unfortunately, everything that came out of Jeff the Killer isn't all fun and games. Original 2008 creator wasn't a great person, and just like Slender Man, Jeff the Killer also unfortunately had a similar situation involving real life crime. On April 6, 2017, 14-year-old Donovan Nicholas shot his father's girlfriend Haiti Taylor after stabbing her 60 times. It is believed that he ambushed her inside their house and afterwards called 911 himself and claimed that someone named Jeff inspired him to do so. Police found him. He had slashed his own mouth to resemble a smile. Clearly, the Jeff that was being referenced here was Jeff the Killer, and while perhaps not completely insane, we can clearly see that Donovan wasn't all mentally there. And the whole trial afterwards was a huge mess and left his final conviction to be an adult conviction after he turned 16 throughout the years of trial. And throughout the trial, there was arguments of whether or not he was suffering from dissociative identity disorder or not. And in 2023, he was eventually released due to the issue of trialing him as an adult partway through the proceedings. A lot of people don't know about the Jeff the Killer murder. It didn't feel appropriate to talk about Jeff the Killer without bringing up an actual tragedy that in part was resulted by this. It's a horrible thing that occurred to the victim Haiti and also Donovan's father, who lost both his son and girlfriend in a single day. And the whole thing is just a mess. Donovan clearly had a bunch of mental problems preceding this, and it's a tragedy, but it should be mentioned that Donovan mentioned Jeff the Killer doesn't mean Jeff the Killer caused him to do this. He clearly had his own issues beforehand, and if it wasn't going to be Jeff the Killer, it was going to be some other random thing that he read about that would influence his final decision. This is not a video games cause violence incident. This is just a troubled kid doing a horrible thing and deciding a piece of fiction is linked to it. At the end of the day, Jeff the Killer is just a creepy image that spawned off a lot of art and material and had some great influence to many people. It introduced a lot of people to the world of horror, helped the careers of many creepypasta YouTubers and storytellers. It's just a simple little story that is funny to laugh at. Don't forget, these are just horror stories. They are simply for fun and entertainment. They might be spooky, but don't worry, you're safe. None of it is real. All it is entertainment, and it's entertaining. So, enjoy your fictional horror and keep yourself entertained whether it be serious or silly, because as eye-rolling as some of these ridiculous creepypastas are, in one way or another they create some genuinely gravitating media that people can enjoy. So don't worry and go ahead and indulge yourself in a bit of horror. Feel free to plunge into the room of horror, because don't forget, it's just fiction. It can't hurt you, and you're safe. Just remember, don't go to sleep. Anyways, that's all there is for me this time. Leave a like, comment, share, or subscribe, as I'll be seeing you later. This is Captain Bill, signing out. See ya.